I'm getting ready to tear this front end apart. Let's give a quick update on where Caden's at. He's making steel lines to go through the radiator support. Back at it in the shop. Today's project is a 93 Suburban.
Good dang clean one at that.
Yeah, it really is a pretty nice Suburban. We're re-gearing it. It has 410s in it now. We're gonna put 456s in it. He lives around a bunch of mountains in New Mexico. Just wants a little bit more power for pulling his trailers and stuff up and down those hills. When we got it here, found a couple little odds and ends that we're fixing up for him. Fixing his exhaust system for him real quick. Kian's wrapping that up. I'm gonna start on this rear axle here shortly. Caden has already started on the front end. He's got the front drive shaft coming out. Got some tape around the U-joint so it doesn't fall apart. Axle bolts are out, skid plates off. So we'll get this whole front end assembly out. As you can see, there's some little bit of oil leak stuff here from 30 years of use. Pretty minor, really. I'll have Caden hose that off real good with some degreaser and some brake clean. See if we can clean that up so it's not such a mess getting it in and out. I like to keep my hands semi-clean. How's it coming over here, Caden?
It's coming along.
Right.
So I just gotta actually get the monstrosity out now.
Oh yeah, you got that bolt's ready. Did you get that top one out yet?
No.
Oh, okay. Probably still ought to rinse this off though before you get too much farther. Kian's got
Exhaust.
Yeah, that all looks good.
Just wire brushed it and putting a quick coat of paint over the wells just so it doesn't rust.
Looks good.
Okay.
I got the carrier out. Looks like this one wheel sill's leaking a little bit. So
Here, I'll grab the drum. Oh, this thing's heavy.
yeah, it's definitely leaking in there. I've got some wheel seals coming. Get that handled. And then I just nuked my shirt. I'll go get that changed. I don't like the smell of gear oil in the mornings.
Hey, that's one nice thing about working at home. You dirty your shirt, you walk inside and go change it.
Yeah, exactly. Ian, when you get that down, if you'll pull the drive line and get that pinion support out.
Okay, yeah, I just barely finished it, so
Perfect.
I'll get going on that right now.
Okay, I'll go change real quick and I'll get the ring gear swapped on it and we'll start pressing bearings and all that good stuff.
We don't miss leg day around here. You know what? We don't miss leg day around here. Yeah, with transmission jacks. You know how many morons it takes to get a front diff out?
Yeah.
So we got the front diff out of it, the rear end's all tore apart. Caden's over there cleaning it up, and Dad was getting the ring gear swapped and the carrier bearings. I don't know where he went, but in the meantime, this is the customer's other car that he's been using while we got his Suburban in here. And while he's been here, the transmission cooler line decided to leak. I don't know if you can see right down there. Got a piece of electrical tape around it. I'll show you more in a minute when we get them out. Gonna pull the hose out, we'll replace them, we'll put some protective sheath on the new hoses and get them back up and going. All right, so I got these hoses out. You can see right here, This is where the customer used his electrical tape and wrapped it up as a temporary fix. Not very long lines, so it should be simple. And I got a box right there. It's got our hose in it. Be able to cut some new ones to length and put some sheathing on to protect it. Anything to add, Dad? Am I doing it all wrong?
Probably.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, I'll still put up with it, so.
Okay.
No, it looks good. It looks like a pretty simple fix, so.
Yeah.
We'll see if we got any of those fuel line clamps too.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, that way we don't have these worm clamps cutting through the hose.
So here I am right here, just got those hoses made. Got these two cut to the same length. So this is what we were talking about with the hose clamps. They kind of spring back. What they do is they kind of lock in like that, and then you tighten them up and they push apart and clamp the hose down. Don't really like those. This is the hose clamp everyone seems to love. You know, it's kind of the go-to. Part stores always have them. They're great for some things, but in those slots, sometimes they'll squeeze the hose out and it can hurt them. These are fuel injection hose clamps, and they don't have that problem. And they tend to clamp very evenly. That's why they use them for fuel injection. So that's what we're going to use on this, and hopefully with all this and a little bit of protected sheathing, like a corrugated over the top of those hoses, he won't have this problem for a good long time. Just got these cooler lines done on this tractor. Put a cord in it, I'm gonna fire it up. See how much more fluid we gotta add. I'm guessing at least 1 to 2 more quarts.
Getting things put back together back here. Got the carrier put together, new ring gear, new bearings. Put a little bit of grease on the bearing itself so I don't put together dry. And then got this pinion support put together. New pinion, both bearings and races are replaced. Now I got to crush the sleeves, so you'll notice I don't have the pinion seal on there. And that's intentional, so I'm going to reuse the pinion nut, put some never sees on it, because these crush sleeves can be pretty tough, even if you pre-crush them, which I have here, just not very much, only about 10 or 15 thousandths at the most. But they're still really tough to crush most of the time. So I'll get this all put together, mounted in the vise, and see if we can get this sleeve to crush. Once it's crushed and the bearing preload's really close, well, then I'll pull it back apart, put the seal in, put some sealant on the splines, new nut, new washer, and put it together for good. And then that'll be ready to install. And I'll just reuse the original shim, and then we can get the carrier in, get our backlash in the ballpark, check our pattern, and if it's good, great. If it's not, then I'll pop the pinion support back out and do a different shim whenever I need to get the pattern to come in where it needs to go. Got to replace this wheel seal here because you can see it's leaking. So you have this little clip right here. So you just pop that clip right there. So that clip holds that little key right there that slides in that slot. And then just grab the, sometimes they're just finger tight, but you may have to grab the 6-pin socket and slide that off. And then this whole hub will come off. Once that's off, clean it up really good. Put a new seal in it. And then while it's apart, take and wash. You can see it has just a little bit of oil on those brakes. Scrub them really good. It hasn't penetrated into the shoes, so they're going to be perfectly reusable. They're just almost brand new. If you want to do that while I finish putting this pinion together. So I got the pinion in. I don't have the bolts torqued, they're just 2 ugga-duggas. But when everything's all good, then we'll go through and torque everything. Same with the ring gear bolts. They're 3 ugga-duggas. But it's just way easier to, oh crap, will you hand me that screwdriver?
Yep.
I got kicked off of my step there.
Well, I had to steal your step over here to find some hose clamps.
Yeah.
It's my fault.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the cool thing about a 14 bolt is there really isn't any shims to mess with. You just spin these spanners up. You can adjust the backlash without even having to pull the carrier out.
Yeah, if the pinion depth's right, you pretty much just fold everything in and call it good.
Yeah, and odds are the pinion depth should be really super close. But I still don't have to pull the carrier out, even if the pinion depth's wrong.
Yeah, that's all you do. So up here, there's these 6 bolts to hold the support on. Pull those 6 bolts, you can pull it out. The shim for the pinion depth is right here between the support and the housing. That's how you set out the depth of the pinion. And that's what you're looking at on your pattern. So it's really nice on the bench. You can just crush the crush sleeve. There's no pinion depth to worry about. Put it in with the factory shim because it's always a really good starting point and go from there. Makes it super nice, super easy, and super convenient. Doesn't get much better than that.
So I got this pretty close. I'll throw the caps in now. Should be able to run a pattern on it. See, I think the caps ended up.
They were right there in the drain.
Yep.
If it was a snake, it would have bit you.
It would have, for sure.
Isn't that what Grandma Mary used to always say?
Among other things, yeah. Gotta watch out for them southern gals.
I'll never make it on a video.
That's okay. He can say that. My wife's a southern gal.
Yeah.
And if Thomas watches, he'll just laugh.
Ian's torquing those bolts for me. 120 foot-pounds on the ring gear and 135 on the main caps. So we got the pattern run. As you can see, the pattern looks pretty good. Looks actually it's spot on. Backlash is at 6 thousandths. And yeah, this one went together really good. So we'll get the cover on it here, get some oil in it, and then we'll be ready to put some oil in the axle tubes and get some oil into those bearings, and we'll slide the axles in. So then we don't have to worry about these bearings being run dry. After those axles are in, then I'll get the front diff in the solvent tank, finish cleaning it up, and we'll get the whole thing, the case split, and change the gears in it.
So the rear end's all done. We dropped it down while my dad's gonna be rebuilding the front end here in a minute. And we are taking care of some other issues. It's cooler lines for the transmission cooler. This auxiliary cooler was mounted, which is a good thing. It does help, but they ran rubber hoses back into here, and you can see that it's got quite a bit of goo everywhere. It's leaking. We're also really worried about right here where it passes through. It's leaking enough, and we'll put some hard lead on. And we got to take care of a heater hose that's leaking, and I think a couple other odds and ends.
I'm getting ready to tear this front end apart. Let's give a quick update on where Caden's at. He's making steel lines to go through the radiator support for the transmission cooler hoses. Hopefully they don't get rubbed through again. Ken's over here reaming out the remains of the old heater hose quick disconnect.
So this is the old one. This is what the new one looks like. You can see how much is still in the intake. So this is just pop metal, just the cheesy, I mean, I broke that by literally just grabbing, oh yeah, I still got a piece of it and the wire cutters, just kind of grabbed it and twisted, and I broke the little piece off there.
As soon as we put a wrench on this to try and turn it, it snapped clean off. So there's no way to get it out, because anything you try to do, you can't put an extractor on it because it just turns it to dust. So we even got the fancy tool that's supposed to pull it out. Stick it in there and it just breaks more metal. Yep, so we drilled as much as we could. Now we're just trying to get in there with a burr bit to clean it out enough that we can chisel what remains out of the intake manifold, and we can run a tap through it and get the new one in.
Yippee.
Yep. Almost got it though.
Yeah, I'm really close. We're getting close.
I just don't want to accidentally go too far, because I'm kind of fresh out of throttle body 454 intake manifolds.
Fresh out?
Yep. Gonna go?
It's really close. I'm gonna have to grab a mirror. I'm thinking the part I still gotta grind's kind of on this side closer to the front of the truck, and I just can't quite see it.
Alright, let's see if we can get this part now. Okay. Alright, so this is what I wanted to show. This stub right here. So if you have one of these trucks and somebody's resealed the front end on it and it doesn't go into four-wheel drive, the problem is because, oh wow, this one doesn't, oh there it is. Because this washer right here fell out and slid over like this. And when it's like that, this piece can't go in and lock this stub to this axle shaft here. Common problem. I've fixed it lots and lots of times. Alright, I finally got this one all tore apart, cleaned up, and ready to go back together. I've got the bearings off of the carrier here, ready to press on, ring gears off. I've got the shim out of the old pinion for the pinion depth, goes right there. Really important piece. And that's ready to go together. Put a pinion bearing on, put the new ring gear on, put these bearings on. These IFS front ends in these Chevys are a little funny. And GM likes to do this on like the 7.5, 10 bolts as well, but they use these left-handed thread bolts on the ring gear. So make sure when you do one of these, you know which way the bolts come off. Usually they're stamped with an L, but for whatever reason these ones aren't. Not so good. Well, I think I'll get this ring gear on, get the bearings on, and then I'll get the case half up here, and we'll start stacking this thing, and I can show you the weird way these go together. I have the pinion put in there. The crush sleeve is crushed. I don't quite have the preload set. It's just about 0 basically. And the reason I did that is because they sent the wrong pinion seal. I'm gonna go ahead and assemble this, and then when I get the right pinion seal, pop this back off, use the new nut, and put it all together, and then I'll set the final pinion preload on it. It's not going to stop me from getting this all set up. As you can see, it's kind of a funky deal the way these are made. It's going to take and drop this carrier in. It fits in, this side fits into there. You can see I've already put a little bit of grease on the race, and ring gears on. I'm going to go ahead and I'll put this in the vise. Torque these bolts. Yeah, I'll torque those real quick. Then I'll set that in. All torqued. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. Oh yeah, no problem. So that's all put in there. Get that all wiped down. Put a little bit of grease on this bearing. This one was an early housing, so it had anaerobic sealer on it. I prefer to use silicone. I'll just use some gray on it, and that seems to work pretty good. They seal up just fine and not quite so messy. And then this case half right there will be ready to drop on it. Got the case halves put together. Preload and the backlash are right on the money. If I would have had to have adjusted it, thankfully I don't have to, is you straighten this little pin out right here, and this is threaded. So kind of like that 14 bolt was in the rear, you adjust this one way or the other to get your backlash and then your bearing preload right. And to check your backlash, I always, instead of trying to set up something inside, I always just measure it off of this yoke right here. This is about the same size as the gear on the pinion anyway. Just set it up right here and measure it, and you're usually good. To check your pattern, pop this guy out. And you can see the gear down in there. This one's good. It's really hard to see it through the camera. But on this side, similar to the opposite side, here's this keeper. Pull this keeper off, and then this whole thing's threads to adjust it. Once again, I didn't have to adjust it, so as you can see, I didn't even put a socket on that. I'll put a new, wow, that's kind of dinged up. Whew. Looks like somebody got a little silly when they put a seal in it. Anyway, I'll clean this up a little bit, then I'll put a new seal in it. And then I can put that axle flange in on this side. On this other side, I just got to get this stub cleaned up, put a new seal in it. Able to get all the remnants out of that.
Yeah, tapped it and it went in good, and yeah,
Cool.
all good. Just got to get the little screw right there that holds the metal tube to the heater hose. Get the hose wrapped and both hose clamps on it. Finish up everything on the cooler lines.
Yeah. Well, I finally got the right pinion seal, so I'll go put that pinion seal in, and the front end will be ready to go. There's the right pinion seal. This is what they put in the kit. That's an axle seal for the small half-ton size front differentials. Yeah. Okay, I'll get this yoke back off, put this in, put the new nut on, and then I'll be ready to clean that up and put that stub on. Got this all ready to go together. Got a new seal here, got this all cleaned up. Bearings look good in it. And before I put this together, I just wanted to show you how these work. Really simple. This piece splines to this stub right here. So when it gets put in four-wheel drive, this actuator right here, you can see the business end of it right there. When you put it in four-wheel drive, there's a switch that turns this actuator on, and as that actuator moves, it pushes this piece down and engages. So when it's in disengaged, this spins free, and then when it's engaged, it pushes down and it locks to the inner stub there, and it's all locked to the differential. Has a spring in there to keep it unlocked unless the actuator pushes it on. And then it just has this little switch right here, and this is what turns the indicator on the dash on and off. So I got some grease on this little washer so it doesn't fall and block this whole mechanism. We'll put a little silicone, a little skeleton pucky on here, hold her together, and this thing's ready to be installed. Got this all put together. I just want to double check, make sure it's all good. So I just pop this actuator back out, take a screwdriver. Put that in. So it all works good. This is all ready to go in now. Got that put back in. Pulled it out to manually test to make sure this all worked, and seems great. Kean and Caden are just about done over here with their stuff. Kean finally got that crazy fitting to seal up back there.
It took a little bit. We'll say that.
Yeah, they're not much fun, but we got it to seal, and then Caden's down here working on the last of the cooler lines. Got the front diff back in. Kean's getting the idler arm put back in. Hold it back up while Caden makes some of the last connections on this. And bolting up the front axle right there. Still got the drive line to do. And then of course the steering box, and then the steering stabilizer. Still have the problem with the trans-cooler lines we're trying to figure out. The cooler that was on it was a 3/8 hose barb, but this Suburban only has 5/16 metal lines, and so somebody had just clamped 3/8 hose to the 5/16 metal lines, and they were leaking, and there's just no way to have them not leak when you do that. So can't find a cooler that I can get in any kind of reasonable time. Trying to find some fittings where I can adapt everything and have it be solid connections and not have to worry about it leaking. Have some more stuff coming, and hopefully I can get that figured out here in the next little bit. It's getting kind of late, and he needs to get back on the road. I still need to put some miles on it, make sure the gears are going to be quiet, and make sure nothing's going to leak. Okay, we had to move the Suburban into the flat stall so we could get some stuff back up on the rack. Got some other jobs that need to be done. We're pretty well wrapped up. It's not quite as tidy as I'd like, but I had to use these fittings to adapt the 5/16 to 3/8, so we didn't have to worry about lines blowing off or anything like that. It's all clamped. Caden's gonna put some corrugated tubing on these lines to protect those, and that should be good to go. And then you'll also notice that we got the cooler off of the condenser. I hate mounting stuff to radiators and condensers. They like to wear holes. It can affect the efficiency of stuff. So we just took this, it's just thicker plumbing tape basically, mounted it all on there. It's nice and rigid, not gonna rub on anything, and looks 100 times better. So we just started it. There's no leaks. We're just gonna wash this off, get the grill back in it, and then I can go drive it, make sure the gears are gonna be quiet. We got this one all wrapped up. Got all the leaks fixed on the transcooler and the heater hose and everything else. I've put quite a few miles on it. Everything's happy, gears are nice and quiet, 4-wheel drive works, truck runs good. He's here to pick it up. He's gonna head back to New Mexico in the morning. Customer took it, made it back to New Mexico, and he just messaged us to let us know that it works flawless and he's super happy with it. That takes care of it for today. Till next time, remember, don't let other people's bogus opinions detract you from doing what you want to do or limit your potential. Thanks for watching.